Welcome to Backseat Confessions Podcast. Slide into the backseat as we listen to mostly anonymous strangers tell us stories from their lives. I'm a rideshare driver in Atlanta, and the people getting in my car have absolutely no idea I'm going to ask them to share. My commitment to you is to tell at least a snippet of virtually every story recorded in my car in the order they were told to me. My hope is that you laugh, cringe, cry, but mostly connect to these amazing people. You may find a piece of your own story, or just feel more connected to the rest of us. Join us, won't you? So, hey, my new friend. This is an adult podcast. Themes and languages are definitely not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised. Well, in this second episode of Season 1 of Backseat Confessions Podcast, there are actually two of the stories that I shared in the original bonus episode released last year. So that means this episode is going to be lit. Let's go! So this first story in our episode today is one of the most intense stories ever on Backseat Confessions Podcast. Additionally, because it was only the sixth story that I had gotten, and the writer was just such a decent guy as well, it really helped me realize that this podcast concept was actually going to work. For that, and for just who this guy is, I'm so grateful. And kids, please, don't take candy from a stranger.
Story number 6. October 24th, 2020, 4:50 p.m.
Was out trick-or-treating, and my parents, they thought we was old enough to go by ourselves at that point. So we was trick-or-treating in West End. Have you ever been to West End?
Yes, I have. Yep.
All right. So we was in West End. And these apartments that's like, it's behind the basketball court called Highwell Park.
Yep.
We was in them apartments trick-or-treating, and this man, he just pulled up on us, and he was like, do you want candy? And we was like 5, 6, so we ain't really care about who we was getting the candy from. We was like, yeah, we want candy. My older brother, he was with us, but he wasn't really paying no attention to us. Like, he was on the phone.
How old was
talking to his girl. How old was my brother at that time? He was like 12, 13, most. But wow. Yeah, he was supposed to have been watching this. He didn't care.
Wow.
So the man, we got in the man's car to go get the candy because he said he lived around the corner. So we ended up driving like on the expressway, and at that point we had got scared. And we was like, where we going? And then he was like, it'll be really quick. We're going to my house. So my brother, I guess he went home to tell my mom about what happened, that he lost us or something. And I guess my mom called the police because at that point we seen a bunch of police on the expressway just driving. So at this point I'm scared, and I can see that my brothers and them scared too. So we chilling in the back seat. We can't do anything. And out of nowhere, we just stopped on the side of the expressway, and he tell us to get out.
Wow.
So we get out of the car, and he pulled out like a real small, like, it's like a gun, but it was small. Like, have you ever seen a like small gun before?
Like almost like a Derringer size or something like that. Yeah.
It was really small, and he was like, get down on your knees. So at that point, I'm scared, but I want to protect my brothers and them, because everyone else is younger than me at that point. So
you were the oldest at 5 or 6?
Nah, my brothers in there was 5 or 6. I was like 8.
Okay.
My older brother, he was 12. So I wanted to protect them because as an older brother, you protect your little siblings. That's what my mom told me.
Yeah.
So I ran up on the guy. I ran to him. I started hugging on him, and I told my brothers to go, and they started running. But the police had stopped by at that point. They drove by, they stopped, and the man, he had started hugging me, and at that point I couldn't talk. So my brothers, they running down the expressway in the grass, and the officer was like, "What's going on? What's the problem here?" And he was like, "My child just being bad," or something like that.
Oh my God.
And I was trying to scream and stuff, but he had my mouth pressed up against his stomach, so I couldn't scream or anything. So I bit the man, like bit him hard. Like,
Yeah.
I seen blood come out of his like stomach. I bit him, and I told the police what was going on. I told him that we had been kidnapped from West End, and at that point we had already been at Jonesboro. So the police had pulled his gun, and the man, he had pointed his gun at me like he was gonna shoot me.
While the police were there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the police had shot him when he had drawn his gun and acted like he was trying to shoot me.
So right in front of you, they
basically.
shot him.
And my brothers, they was gone, and a man had brought them back up to me, like, but he brought them up to me and said these kids are lost. They said they was kidnapped and stuff like that. And the police was like, "Do you know your parents' name?" and stuff like that. And I told them, and they just took us home.
Wow.
Like nothing happened. They had us fill out a police report and everything, and it was on the news the next day about what happened.
So
But
did the guy die?
yeah, he was dead. He had got shot 2 times. He definitely died. And ever since then, I really haven't really went trick-or-treating or anything like that. My brothers and them, they still go.
Yeah.
They go with their friends and stuff, but I don't really go like that. I just go to parties,
Yeah.
be with people who I know.
Wow. That is one of the most insane stories I've ever heard. I can't, and I'll tell you, it does seem like you had like some sort of angelic protection, because that story could have gone so much worse.
Yeah, way worse.
Oh my God.
Could have been 3 kids dead instead of that one man.
That's right. Yeah, because you know the statistics. Like pretty much once they get you,
It's
you're-
over with.
Yeah, you're not going back home to mama.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. I am so grateful that you made it out, and your brothers. I mean, that's
Yeah.
wow.
And my mom, she had bought a gun for the house for protection purposes only. But, I mean, eventually I started keeping the gun under my mattress, like when I was like 14, 15.
Wow, I can't even imagine. That's incredible. Every time I hear this story, I'm just so grateful it turned out the way it did. It could have been so much worse. And the bravery of our hero to protect his brothers as best as he could, just wow. Also, we've got to give props to the police officers for managing to shoot and kill the kidnapper without harming the victim. Just crazy stuff. Our next story also has some pretty great ingredients for a horror story. The writer goes with her friend to an abandoned building in Mexico City and sees a lone man lurking in the area off the elevator. Anyone want to dance?
Story number 7. Saturday, October 24th, 2020, 5:47 p.m.
So this was a couple years ago. I was living in Mexico City at the time,
Nice.
and my friend came to visit, and she's a pretty good dancer, like ballroom, salsa, bachata, kizomba, different like partner style dances. So she's pretty good. She got hired to teach a class. They were gonna pay her about like $100 for an hour.
Wow.
So it's it's decent. It's not something you would risk your life over though.
No.
So they give us the address, and this was like the year after there was a big earthquake in 2017.
Yep.
So they give us the address, we show up, it's this ginormous abandoned building. It's got like 23 stories, 2 like parts of the building. It's like a big L. It's complete, it looks from the outside like the scariest building ever. Abandoned, no windows. It's a very scary building. Apparently suffered earthquake damage. So we show up, and that's the address for the dance class.
Wow.
I was like, no, I don't know. So we were just kind of like just waiting at the entrance. And then we're like, I don't know, they said on the 5th floor. So we go in, and there was a guy like at the reception, and he said we could go up. So we go up, but the elevator only goes up. So we get on the elevator, and we get off, and it was pitch black. There's no electricity in this building. And so we take out our flashlight, like our cell phones, put on the flashlights. This is Mexico City, mind you. In the middle of the hallway, standing in the dark, is like this black man with a Detroit Lions sweatshirt.
Oh my God.
So I was there with my dad, who's from Detroit.
Right.
And I've also lived in Detroit. So it was very clear that he was not Mexican.
Right.
And the first thing I was like, oh, are you from Detroit? And then he's like, yeah, I am. And then we just start talking about Detroit. And then we're like, wait, like 30 seconds after, we're like, wait, why are you here? Like in the middle of an abandoned building, standing in the dark.
In the most terrifying way.
And
yeah.
he's like, oh, I'm waiting for the dance class to start. We're like, okay, so you're here for the dance class too. And then we're like, well, do you want to come with us? And he's like, no, I was just meditating. So we're like, all right. So we left him in the dark to meditate on the 5th floor of this abandoned building.
Oh my God.
So we go over to like the dance studio, and they've got a generator set up. So they've got some electricity. But still, I was like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. There's no like electricity in this building. So I'm like, I'm going to leave. So we tried to leave, and that's when we figured out the elevators don't go down. So then we had to run down this like dark
That's
stairwell.
a horror movie, by the way. That's a horror movie.
Yeah. So literally like running out of it. We run out, and then as we're running out, the dance like instructor shows up, and he's like, oh, aren't you guys going to, like, where are you going? We're like, I don't know. I'm not going to stay here. And he's like, well, why? I was like, this is an abandoned building. And he's like, well, it's obviously not abandoned because we're in it. And I was like,
that's hard to argue, logic to argue.
I was like, I guess, but I don't, there's no electricity. And he's like, well, we have the generator. And I was like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with this. So he was like, fine, you don't have to come. And my friend was like, well, I'm getting paid $100. And I was like, yeah, but are you going to risk your life over it? And she's like, also, I like dancing. So if I die dancing, I die doing something I love. So
that is amazing.
She ended up teaching the class, and we all survived.
Wow.
But I definitely felt bad just like abandoning her to her luck in an abandoned building. I sat in a bar like 2 blocks away and just drank a drink until she was safe.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to win Friend of the Year award for that. Well, I'm glad everyone made it out of the creepy abandoned building, knowing how to dance a little better, along with a few bucks in the rider's friend's pocket. But no way would I want this young lady watching my back. So I'm gonna be waiting to find out if you make it out alive while I hang out in the bar, okay? Great. So this next rider tells one of my all-time favorite stories I've ever been told. Period. I mean, like, even outside of this podcast, just best stories ever. You know, sometimes I get people who ask me, what is the best story you've heard so far? And it's tough to answer that, you know, like choosing your favorite child or whatever, because there are so many great stories. But this one has got to be a contender.
Story number 8. Saturday, October 24th, 2020, 7:44 p.m.
I'm 30. I have 5-6 degrees.
That's crazy.
One reason, I've always wanted to be a mortician. And the reason I ended up in culinary school is because the body woke up on me doing training of me studying at 18 to be a mortician. And I told the doctor, never mind, I'm going to go cut chickens up and go to culinary school.
So, like, paint this scene for me. Like, what? The body woke up? Like, what?
So, like, they do their last breath and they have their last gas.
Yeah.
So the gas woke up the body. His eyes opened up. He leaned up and he grabbed my arm.
Dude, are you kidding me right now?
And I nearly, and this is on radio or podcast,
yeah.
I nearly shit my pants.
Absolutely, as you should.
And said, I'm going to culinary school.
I do want to let this man finish his story, but I also just want to take a moment to sit in that. Yeah, a dead dude opened his eyes, sat up, and grabbed this man's arm. Okay, back to regular programming.
And then 30 years later, I get back into it, and then I started practicing. I'm not really scared of the dead bodies anymore. So it's okay if they wake up now. I just look at them because I know you're going to die. I mean, I know you're going to fall back down. Let's put it that way.
Right. And just like, because we were talking earlier about, tell me like all your degrees.
So I have a culinary degree. I have a baking and pastry degree. I have a degree in nutrition. That's my master's. I have a PhD in dietetics, and then I also have a PhD in mortuary, which is just like getting funeral homes and dealing with the dead bodies.
And all of this by age 30?
All of this by age 30.
Dude, that is absolutely crazy. I don't know. The dead body story is probably crazier, but I just can't imagine even getting all those degrees.
I have a very bad shopping habit, so I work really hard because I got to be able to maintain my shopping habit.
I love it. Absolutely iconic Backseat Confessions podcast story right there. So crazy that it just has to be true. This next story, a family drama, could be something out of an old melodramatic novel. This guy was trying to tell this complex story with a zillion backstories, so I struggled to actually follow along with it the first time I heard it. I'm going to attempt to make this one a little more understandable than it was told to me. Okay, here's BCP's, by the way, that's short for Backseat Confessions Podcast. Here's BCP's version of a family soap opera.
Story number 9. Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, 12:09 a.m.
Okay, so I work in retail.
Okay.
And the other day, this girl comes in, and I just, I greet her, very casual. She looked kind of familiar, but nothing, you see a lot of faces in retail. And so I ask for her email. She gives me her email. And I'm like, that sounds very familiar. And then I press enter on our, database, and her address pops up.
Okay.
And it is for a Florida address.
Whoa.
And I say, do you know Patricia Kahn? And she goes, I do. That's my grandmother. I say, oh, that's my grandmother as well. And so I'm going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to have to give you backstory to this story.
Wow.
So then I'm like, oh my goodness, how are you? How is your sister? How is X, Y, and Z? And she was kind of like, she got very cold. Ooh. She pulled away. And at one point she goes, well, this is awkward. And I said, no, it's not awkward at all. And I said, if you're open to getting together and meeting, I would really love that and really enjoy that. And she says, well, it's very difficult. Or she goes, no, it's very complicated. And I said, I can understand how you feel that way. And she walks away, and that was how I met my estranged cousin.
Oh. And
so basically, many moons ago, before I was born, my mother is first generation American.
Yes.
And her father was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic and was abusive.
Wow.
And so there's 6 years between my mother and her sisters. So it goes, I have an uncle, then my mother, then 6 years, and then 2 girls.
Okay.
So my 2 aunts. And basically, for a long time he was okay, but then he got to a very, very bad place. And he became addicted to painkillers. And basically he ended up ODing and dying.
Oh.
And my aunts blamed the death of their father on my mother.
Oh.
Yes. And so, because also part of the backstory is that my mother tried very hard because she was being sexually abused by her father to keep that away from the younger girls.
Right.
You know? So I think there was like a weird, like, they had this story in their mind that wasn't the whole story. And so basically, they believe that my mother killed their father out of a broken heart.
Okay, so as a recap, here's what I've pieced together so far. Our main character randomly meets his cousin while ringing her up at the register. The cousin wants nothing to do with him because her mom was his mom's younger sister. His mom is first-generation American, and her dad was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and, side note, her dad was molesting her as a child. His mother doesn't want to tell her siblings, so they end up thinking that dear old dad just died of a broken heart. Presumably because our main character's mom doesn't really feel like hanging out with a creep. Okay, so now we add in some additional tea.
Part of the reason they think that he died of a broken heart was because my mother was dating a Christian man who she eventually converted for it after, when they got married, after his death, after my grandfather's death.
Converted to
Christianity, to Seventh-day Adventism.
Yeah.
And so, another crazy backstory is that when my grandfather was alive, there was a man who came to my grandfather and said, "I would like to marry your daughter." And he said, "Ha! Not on your fucking life, bub." He was like, "You're not shit. You never be shit. And that's going to be a no for me."
Right.
And so when my grandfather died, that same man came back and basically swept away my aunt and was like, "This is what your father would want, X, Y, and Z." All the while knowing full well, turn left here, all the while fully knowing that he was denied already by my grandfather.
Oh.
And mind you, I think he was 20 or something like that, and my aunt was 16.
So the added tea is that our main man's mom left her original religion and converted to Christianity. Not sure what religion she was born into, but that's usually a niche to leave one's religion in most cultures. So you can see why there is this added animosity between the aunts and his mom. They just see her distancing herself from dear old dad and leaving her original religion. So this is just horrifying. And then we add in the morsel that the mother of the cousin that our main dude met was swept off her feet at 16 by a guy that pedophile daddy had already said no to. So, cousin's dad just waits until the old pedo dies and then makes his move. Whew. Okay, diving back in.
So basically, I have 8 cousins who I've never met before. I've only seen in pictures and heard of, and they didn't know about me until I was 13.
Wow.
So I basically saw this girl and I was like, "You look so familiar," and then I got her name. And I was like, "Oh my God, you're my cousin." And I was like, "I would love to, if you're up to it, I would love to connect. I would love to,
Yeah.
And at first I was very upset,
Right.
Because, to be denied,
Right.
especially to be denied by family is
Exactly.
very, jarring, especially having gone through, your whole life being denied.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I did the best that I could.
You did.
I was open and I was receptive and I didn't, even when she said it's complicated, it's really not complicated.
Right.
Right. But that's how she felt, and I didn't push her and I didn't instigate her, and I just said, I just think that the crazy thing is that she was really shocked that she had encountered me.
Right.
And I had
So
actually encountered her mother once before when I was living with my grandmother. So my aunt was like helping my grandmother renovate her home, and I was living in that home.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready for school, and the contractors and I had become very friendly. And so he was like this like 70-year-old man who knew he had no boundaries. So he would like open up the bathroom door, and you'd be like getting dressed, and you're like, oh my God. And he'd be like, whatever. So I'm getting ready, and he's like walking her through the house, and she sees me, and she like retreats around the corner because she couldn't acknowledge my existence. So for a while, for the day, I was like, oh my God, like this just happened. But then I just was like, I just have to like release this. Like I tried, and I was open, and that's all you can do. And and especially because when I was living with my grandmother, as I was leaving, I took her to dinner, and I was like, I love you, and I appreciate you for everything you've given me, but I cannot respect you.
Wow.
And you've destroyed 2 generations now of this family, and I cannot respect you.
So, to finish it up, our main guy only met his aunt once while she was being shown around the house of his grandmother by a potentially also creepy contractor? What? I don't even have the energy to deal with that. But the aunt that had gotten married at 16, mind you, to the sneaky guy who waited for dear old dad to kick off, was now denying our main character's very existence. Good stuff. Then, in a dramatic close, he finally confronts Grandmama before he leaves her. I'm assuming the confrontation was because Grandmama must have known more than she was willing to admit to the rest of the family, and that withheld information was driving them all apart. Just when you think your family of origin has issues. Am I right? In our last story for this episode, our writer shares some of her own family drama and a discovery about her ex that helps explain a few things. Times are a-changing, my friends.
Story number 10. Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, 1:05 a.m.
Oh goodness, I lost my job recently.
Oh no.
Yeah, I lost my job, and now everyone keeps asking me about it, and I have to lie and tell them that I still have the job.
Oh.
But, I mean, it's all right.
Can you talk about what the job was? You don't have to tell where it was, but what type of job maybe?
Oh my goodness, I was working with my family, but
Okay.
I thought I was going to end up owning the business.
Oh man.
And out of nowhere, we had a crazy argument, and things were said that weren't meant from the owners.
Uh-oh.
So you learn the hard way, but you pick up fast pretty much.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and got a job very fast, luckily.
Yeah.
Everything's falling in place, but then I just found out my ex-boyfriend last night. I found out that my ex-boyfriend likes dating transsexuals.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Wow.
To each his own.
For sure.
And I'm glad he's happy.
Yes.
But I found that out just last night.
And how long were you dating him?
We're dating, I'll say maybe, luckily about 6 months before I'm like, things don't seem right.
Yeah.
Maybe we're better off as friends.
Yes.
One time even, I caught him trying on my clothes.
Okay,
and
got
he
it.
took a picture on Instagram, and that's how I realized he had my clothes on. But
oh my God.
It's like, hold on, what is going on? Now it all makes sense.
Now it all makes sense. Oh my gosh.
I wish, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I could have been a better friend to him if I had known the truth.
Right, exactly.
In that manner, but...
What did...
Yeah, and I found this out just today, because it's still nighttime. I'm on a... Oh, sheesh. I just found this out 3 hours ago.
Oh my God. So when you asked him, why weren't you just honest with me? What was... or did you even ask him that yet?
No, it was just... he messaged me recently and asked me what was going on. I told him I was good.
Yeah.
He's just said he's embracing life's transitions.
Ah, key word.
Transitions.
Uh-huh.
But that was a beautiful man. Sheesh.
Oh, yeah. Was he?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you're a beautiful person, and I believe that...
Oh, they come a dime a dozen. There's more fish in the sea.
That there's more fish in the
Oh,
sea, yeah. Man, I just love our last rider's spirit. She lost what she'd hoped would be her family business, found out that her beautiful former boyfriend would rather date transsexuals, and maybe transitioning? Okay, not sure about the last one, but just trying to read between the lines. Anyways, our rider holds no ill will against anyone and just wishes her ex would have let her know so she could have transitioned herself into being a better friend more quickly. And she's not worried for 1 second about finding another dude. There's plenty of fish in the sea, as she so aptly puts it. So, to this lovely lady, I say, may we all learn to handle life's challenges with just half as much grace and confidence as you have. This is what happens when you're a rideshare driver in ATL and ask people for their stories. These weren't handpicked people with great stories. They just happened to get in my car and be gracious enough to share with all of us. I'd actually encourage all of us to every once in a while just ask a stranger to share a story from their life. You never know what you might learn. I believe that our stories are powerful. They can make you laugh, cringe, cry, or even get you to think or feel differently. Our stories can truly make this world a little bit better place. Please subscribe, rate, and listen to this podcast and share it with as many adults as possible. It would really, really mean so much to me. First and foremost, I want to thank the incredible writers who trusted me with their stories. You are my heroes. Thanks also to all the people in the background who have believed in this project/dream. And all the music on this project was found on Pixabay, that's Pixabay.com. And it was free, which is an amazing gift when you're starting a podcast on a shoestring budget.